Before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the infinitely compassionate One, the One who fulfilled all his perfections for the liberation of not just himself, but to all sentient beings. So to worship the Tathagata, let's chant the Namaskara 3 times, all together and with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. How is everyone today? Good? So, almost a quick update from the monastery. Guru Hamdra is back, our teacher is back. And we had an amazing sermon by him yesterday. And so today, some of us will be able to listen to his talk as well, which is I think is going to be very interesting today. But something that you really realize is, even though Guru Hamdra was gone, so our teacher was gone, he wasn't. But when he came back, did the teacher come back? Well, I think we were very fortunate to be able to hear him speak after about a month. And something that I would like to relay, that he'll probably talk about today in his sermon as well, but is how busy he was. How extremely busy he was. So he didn't say this, but with him, Mahinda and Bhaktivedanta both went, and something that they said was how very little time they had, to sleep. Sleeping will happen on either in the car or in on the plane. Every other time it will be helping someone, teaching someone, preaching to someone. Very little time. But there was also something else that I found incredibly interesting. Something that we don't really see, because Guru Hamdra, right, our teacher, never does things for people to see, because he himself would do things for if it's for himself, it will be for himself. But he won't go around saying, I do this, I do that. And that is his commitment that he has to learning languages. So, for those of you who may not know, Guru Hamdra, right, he is his mother tongue is Sinhalese, which means he's amazing in Sinhalese. He can speak English. He self-taught himself Hindi, self-taught himself Telugu. And we were told a story where he had the fortune of talking to someone who can speak Telugu, and the only thing that Mahinda said was, Guru Hamdra, we have a person who can talk Telugu. Mahinda had no expectation that Guru Hamdra's gonna sit down and talk in Telugu. But from the moment he sat down and opened his mouth, just Telugu. And this is talking about just couple months, maybe 6, 7, 8 months of practicing. And he's now learning another language. He's now learning Japanese, right? So you could say Sinhalese, Hindi and Telugu are all like Asian, like Indian, South Indian languages. However, Japanese is a completely different language. And he's learning it. So even though he had only a couple hours of sleep, So Mahina was telling us how he has a book where every single day, before he goes to sleep, he would write a phrase, a new phrase in Japanese, and then the same, and then underneath that, he would write a Dhammapada stanza in Hindi and its meaning in English every day. And so when Mahina was saying this, Guru Handru said something that really struck a chord. And that is, if this is how much I do to learn a language, how much do you think I do for my liberation? Because if he literally has a book, and he was telling us that yesterday or the day before was his 100th day writing Japanese. And he hasn't missed a single day. Now, I don't know about you. For me, doing something consistently isn't too easy. We have those days where we're lazy and we think, today I'm really tired. I'm not going to do this today. I'm just going to take a step back and do it tomorrow. But if Guru Handru doesn't give himself an excuse, what about his contemplation? Do you think he'll ever give himself an excuse when he does his contemplation? When he's trying to contemplate on the Dhamma? And that really struck chord, because I was thinking, well, if that's how much he does for his languages, how much do you think he does for himself? See, I think as we're approaching the new year, right, the end of this year, and approaching the start of 2025, and before we forget, I'd like to wish everyone a very early, 3 days early, Happy New Year's. As we're approaching the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025, something that I think everyone or most people do is we make New Year's resolutions. And it's same whether you're wherever you are. We always, by the start of a new year, we always have goals that we want to achieve. And some of these goals are very interesting, very, very interesting, because I grew up with many people and hearing what sort of resolutions they have. There'll be people who go straight on, I'm not going to have chocolate this year. There'll be others who say, you know what, I'm gonna lose 10 kilograms this year. I've had people say, I'm gonna gain 5 kilograms this year. And well, I've heard the most weird but the most amazing goals. People a very common one that we see creeping up, and very common, meaning lots and lots of people have this, is to reduce the amount of time they spend on their phones or spend on a screen. Children have this a lot. And thinking about this, we have a new year that's coming up and we always make a resolution. Now, the question is, when we've made such a resolution, how often do we complete it? I think there's a statistics, I can't remember the exact numbers, about how many people actually make New Year's resolutions and how many people complete it. I think it was statistically around 80% or almost around that of people will make a New Year's resolution thinking that in the next year, this is what I'm going to do. And if I remember correctly, it was 70% of the people who make the resolutions will break their resolution within the first 3 months. So if they say, you know what, I'm not going to eat chocolate, within the first 3 months, they ate chocolate. Or if they say, you know what, I'm going to put my screen time to just 2 hours. Within the past 3 months, they realize instead of 2 hours, it's become 4 or 5 or maybe 6. Within the first 3 months, 70% of people break their New Year's resolution. But how many people do you think actually complete it? I think statistically it's only 1 to 2%. Now that tells us a lot about the mindset of humans. The mind of humans. 70% of us makes goals, but only 1% of us complete it. Now, that is something that is concerning. It is very concerning because we try very hard, we make the goals. I mean, making the goal itself is incredibly difficult because you're thinking, well, it's something that is rare because you're thinking, well, I have to improve myself. For someone to think, I'm not perfect, I need to do something better, well, it comes with self-realization that, there has to be something I have to improve on. But after that, trying and having the not just the self-discipline, but having the motivation to do it throughout an entire year, now that's difficult. If I was to go back into the many years I've made resolutions, ever since I found out what a New Year's resolution is, I think every year after that, I've made some sort of resolution. However, if I was to ask myself, how many of those have I actually completed? Again, out of 100, maybe just 1. Which is, again, something that's concerning. That's showing us that we don't have the discipline, that we don't have the self-determination, the motivation to get through a simple New Year's resolution. Now, something that we do in the monastery is, as we come close to the end of the New Year's, we have 4 categories that we make a resolution in, right? And be my guest, if you want to do this year, please do. So normally we take a piece of paper and we break it up into 4 pieces. Right? And on the top one, we write down 3 things that we did this year that we want to continue to do next year. Right? So for example, if you had the habit of, contemplating for half an hour a day, or finding at least half an hour a day to contemplate, then if you want to continue doing next year, you write that down. If you worship your teachers every day, that's something you can write down, etc., etc. But this one box will be something that I did this year that I want to continue next year. The next box, something that I did this year that I want to reduce or stop. And so these are talking about the good things. Because I think we live under the eyes of scrutiny. Like we normally have the habit of looking at things and always looking at the bad. And it's not always healthy, but it's something that we've habitually come to. Oh, this is not straight, let's straighten this, let's do this. And we look at not just how bad something is, or we always look for something that we always think about the bad. It's a tendency. So it's always good to actually think about, what good did I do this year? How much have I changed this year? So something I'm really proud of that I did this year that I want to continue to do next year. That's something that we have to think about, because we're not just bad people. Yes, we may get angry here and there. Yes, we may feel the fire of desire here and there. Yes, we may feel ego here and there, but that does not define us to be bad people. We have done good things. So write 3 things that, you did this year that you want to continue to do next year. And then on the other side, then write 3 things which you did this year that you don't want to continue to do or you want to reduce next year. Can anyone guess what this box is for? I'll give you a hint.
The one you want to calm down, like to eradicate.
No, that one is this one. So something that you want to reduce or you want to stop. This one is interesting. This one is something that you didn't do this year that you want to start next year. That you didn't do this year that you want to start doing next year. So for example, if you didn't spend 5 minutes transferring your merits to the people around you, right? That's something you can put here. Or it could be, say, you can have many, many, many things that you can put inside this one. Now, so this is something you did that you continue. This is something you did that you want to stop or reduce. This is something you didn't do that you want to start. What do you think this one is? Logically, what do you think this one is? So something that you did that you want to continue, something that you did that you want to stop or reduce, something that you didn't do that you want to start. This one. Something that you didn't do and you definitely don't want to do. So for example, that could be, within the last year, I felt, I tried my very best not to shout at another person. That's something you can put in. I did my very, last year I tried to stop. Say I had a habit of, I don't know, what sort of habits what do we have? Let's say I have the habit of having something sweet after a meal. But last year I tried to stop that. I want to continue to do that this year as well. So normally in this box, what you'll find is these are technically the 10 unmeritorious deeds, right? The 10 bad deeds that we may do. That's normally what comes in this box. Now, just making the goals, does it do it? Is that enough? Because we've made, 3 per box means that's 12 goals. Pretty big goals, right? 12, a lot of big number. Just making the goals, is that enough? No, of course not. Making the goals is just the first step. Now, something that I think I'm very fortunate to have is to have so many great people around me who are willing to help. So what we normally would do is after we make these goals, right? The next thing we'll do is we'll write down how we're gonna break it down so it's easier. So for example, if you say I don't want to eat chocolate, right? I'm gonna stop eating chocolate. Is that actually something you can stop doing? Because eating chocolate or not eating chocolate, which one is the good one? Is eating chocolate good or not eating chocolate good? Neither. It's not chocolate that's the issue. It's what's the issue. It is the mental craving that we have, the attachment that we have to chocolate. Now that is what we have to get rid of. It's not whether, I'm going to eat chocolate or I'm not going to eat chocolate. That's not what we should focus on. Because for example, you're at home and someone brings some chocolate and they open it and they're like, oh, do you want some? And out of courtesy, what do? You can't say no, right? So you take some. Now, if your goal is, I'm not going to eat chocolate, now you can't eat this. But it's not chocolate or it's not eating chocolate or not eating chocolate. That's the issue. It is, what am I feeling? So again, you have to think about it. How can I make this so it's doable? That I can actually complete it within this year. Like something that, as we go on the path to Nibbana, right? You can say, you know what, by the end of this year, I want to become anagami. I want to attain this state. Now, you can have that in your mind. However, is it something you think you'll be able to do this year? You see, these are sort of questions you have to ask yourself. Can I do this? Within the next 12 months, is it doable? And like I said, because I'm very fortunate to be among really great people, I would assign each and every one of them to a person. A person so they are accountable. So for example, let's say something I didn't do this year that I want to start. Let's say I want to memorize stanzas of the Dhammapada. What would I do? I would ask someone to be accountable. I'll say, okay, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me do this? Because what we have to realize is a mind is a mind. A mind will arise according to what? Its environment. A mind will continuously arise according to its environment. So if you have a certain environment, a certain mind will arise. So what we have to do is we have to change the environment. By changing the environment, the mind itself will change, or the mind that will arise will be different. Because we all understand that the world works due to cause and effect. When the causes come together, do we have an effect? A good example would be, and these are things that we all know. If you think you have like an addiction to a phone, what sort of things should you not do? A, have it with you all the time. I mean, removing that from your environment for some time period itself will remove what? The mind arising with the need for this. Now, I know we've talked about habits in the past, right? So I don't want to go deep on this topic again, but I do want to remind you how it's important to change the environment. Now, changing the environment doesn't always mean to be physical. So I don't need to get rid of this pen to change the environment. Changing the environment is simply by adding it could be as simple as adding a view. That's changing the environment. So for example, if you were to go to a teacher and say, I want some help to reduce my anger. Now what they would do is simply just give you a view. A strong view. When a view is in place, that changes your mental environment. Therefore, the mind, when it comes to a moment where anger used to arise, the view now comes into play, and now you think, And like a good example would be, I remember one day learning and being taught that, when someone is shouting at you, it is just a sound. It is just a vibration. Now, that is a view that's in place. So if someone came to now shout at me, this view will come up. And I'll remember what? Oh, this is just a vibration. The meaning is something that I place. Now what happens? Now the environment is different. Because the environment is different, now the mind that arises due to the environment will be what? Different. So we have to change the environment. So again, we've talked about how to start and stop habits in the past, so I'm not going to go on the topic again. But That is how we have to get these done. Now we have to have the, first of all, we have to have the mental determination, the mental motivation. There has to be a reason why. Why am I doing this? Now, something that we at the monastery do, right, and most of our monks also do, is before we go to sleep, we take a couple minutes to not only just reflect on our day, but also to remind ourselves of what we are trying to achieve. So we chant the Pali Nivanamanatai Nivanamveta, which means Nibbana we're contemplating on the state of Nibbana. What is Nibbana? Now, the definition that you give will change day by day. The more you contemplate, the definition of Nibbana will change day by day. I'll give you something to think about, right? Especially on the topic of Nibbana. If an Arahant, so someone who's attained Nibbana, was given a task to do, or if they were given a task to do, and that task is difficult, would they let it go and think, there's no need because we have to get rid of this? Would they just let go and say, what, there's no point of me doing this? It's too difficult. It's almost impossible. Will they let go? See, we have this idea that as we go on this path, we have to let go. Now, if you have to learn to do, or if you have to do something and it's pretty difficult, why are you doing it if it's difficult? Let it go. But an Arahant won't let go. An Arahant will have what? Will stop until when? Until what is need to be done is done. See, okay, let's say hypothetically we have an Arahant in a meeting, right? We have a meeting about let's say today we're going to talk about we're going to have a meeting about how we're going to solve our water issue, right? Because as we're growing in numbers, we need more water. How are we going to solve this? Now, so let's say the Arahant has an idea. Why don't we do this idea? Now, let's say every single person is against and say, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that. What do you think the Arahant will do? Fine, we won't do that. Actually, the mind doesn't have what? The mind doesn't have what? It doesn't have an attachment to the idea. But neither does it have the attachment to be what? To be, he doesn't have the idea that it's my idea is to be, because it's not his idea, is it? His or her idea. It's just an idea. And they don't have the view that my idea has to be accepted, or doesn't have the view that it has to be rejected either. So until what? Until it is perfectly clear that this idea cannot happen, because the mind doesn't have any vexation, isn't vexing at all, doesn't have any pressure. They have the motivation to do it until it's done. Until what is needed to to be is done. So the more you understand, or the more you start contemplating about what Nibbana is, the idea of Nibbana, the idea of Nibbana will change, but the more strong motivation you have to do that. So that's why if you don't, take 5 minutes just before your head hits the pillow, just to think, what is unconditional happiness? Why do I want to attain? Why do I want to be unconditionally happy? Why? Just take 5 minutes and think about it. Because that will be the motivation that brings you to the next moment. So something that our monks and anagarikas do is, before we go to sleep, right? Our higher day monks, we'll do what it's called monasterial confession, and our anagarikas, and our novice monks, they will observe sil, right? Observe the 10 precepts. And at the end of the 10 precepts, and at the end of this activity, which we do every single day, the one who is precepting, or the elder monk, will always chant the 3 Ovada Pratimoksha stanzas. These are 3 stanzas, and you'll hear them very common. They're very often, right? Kanti Paramanta Bodhika, right? And Sabapapa Sakaranam, Anupavado Anupagato. Now, these 3 stanzas, they will recite. Why do they recite this? Is to remind you of what? Of what your task truly is. So we may touch upon the meanings of these stanzas. We may not, but I'll tell you the stanzas. So you'll hear them very often. It's Kanti Paraman Tabodhika Nibbhanam Paramang Vadanti Buddha Nahi Pabito Parupagati Samano Hoti Parangetiantu Sabapapa Sakaranang Kusala Supasampada Sachita Paryodapanang Etam Buddhanusasana Anupavado Anupagato Pratimokyo Sanguro Mattanita Battasmin Pantan Sainasnam Adichichecha Ayogo Etam Buddhanusasana. These 3 stanzas have Nibbana instilled inside of them. The one thing that I really love about Pali, right? Trust me, right? I will say these stanzas, right? Like I know Pali very well, but I'm one of the people who don't know much Pali. But the one thing I really do love about Pali is that I don't know its true meaning. So day by day, by talking to the people who do, I get to instill meaning inside all of this. Because a great example would be, right? When we talk about dukkha, right? So dukkha, the literal English translation is what? Suffering. But the more we understand about dukkha, is dukkha really suffering? Can you really relate dukkha and say it's suffering? No, because dukkha has such a deeper meaning. But by using just a Pali word, you can put a massive meaning in such a small word and still feel it. So this is why I enjoy learning these stanzas. Do I do it often? No, because it's one of my goals to learn some stanzas. Trust me, it's something I want to do. But that's the thing. The reason why we chant these stanzas after we observe sil and after we cleanse our minds is so we remind ourselves what the goal truly is. So for what? To have the motivation. Because you have to remember, a mind is something that arises according to its environment. This is essential. This is something that you really, really have to, we have to really understand. A mind isn't something that you and I can control. Because if it was, we won't be here. What we really have to understand is that a mind is entirely its environment. According to the environment will a mind arise. So if we want to change the mind, what do we have to do? We have to change the mental environment. That's why having things to remind you what you need to do, how you have to get something done is really, really key. Really, really essential. That's why our monks, after observing the 10 precepts or after doing the Avadasima, they will chant these 3 things. The elder monk will chant these. Now, when you're chanting, who is the first person? So, when I'm speaking, who is the first person to hear all this? So all of this is for who first? I got to hear it first. And then the other person. So both people benefit from this. Both parties get to benefit from this. See, this is why the environment is essential. This is why we have to continue to think about not how I can change my mind. So last week we talked about this. There is no point of changing minds. Why is there no point? Because the mind will arise. Next moment, the mind will pass away. That's like it's almost like trying to catch light. Can you catch light? This is light, right? I caught it. Where is it? And you try catching again. You can't catch it because why? It will go and it will be absorbed and reflected, and it's not something you can do. You can't change minds. What can you do? You can change the mental environment, the mind base. So that's something that we have to really understand, that the mind cannot be changed. Because even if we were able to slow down a mind, right? We were able to slow down the mind process so we can change it as it goes. Well, you're changing something that's going to pass away the next moment. And a completely newborn, fresh mind will arise. That's why our task is not to purify the mind, but to purify the mind base. The base of the mental environment. That's what we're trying to do. So again, these things have to affect what? The environment. All 4 of these topics, or all 4 of these headings have to affect the what? The mind base. If your mind base is not affected, it's not going to happen. So here's the thing, right? We have to, once you've made these, and once you have the motivation, do you need to do anything? Do you need to do anything? Once you know what you're going to do, and once you know where you're going, do you need to do anything? Anything extra? No. It is done. The mind will do it. So it's like this, right? If I was to pick this pen up, if I let go, what's going to happen? Does anyone doubt that? That when I let go, it's going to start flying up? I don't know. Somehow gravity switches off at this moment, right? And if I drop this pen, it's going to fly up. Anyone doubt that? Anyone think that that's going to happen? No, we know that once I drop the pen, it's going to fall. Why does it fall? Because once there is the force. Once there is a force applied, right? So me picking it up, means what? Means that there's now what? Gravitational potential energy. Letting go means that it'll try to come back to its most stable state. That is on the table. Once you have the motivation, what you are doing is you're creating potential energy. It's like this. Imagine telling a child, you cannot eat chocolate. What will the child do? Okay, mom, I'm not going to eat chocolate. Is that what children normally do? By hook or by crook, they'll find a way to do it. Because why? Once the mind has what? Potential energy. Once the mind has a desire, has the, not only desire, but has the motivation. Because you can say motivation, desire are the same, but I would say differently. Motivation, desire are not the same. They have similar qualities, but they're not the same. As in, they overlap. Some parts will overlap. So for example, if you have the desire for something, that automatically becomes motivation. However, if you are motivated, it's not always a desire. A great example would be, to attain Nibbana, you need to have what? You need to have the motivation for it. However, this motivation is pulled not by the desire to attain, but by the understanding. That's why it's called Chanda. Because you understand why that needs to happen. You understand why does this need to happen? Therefore, it's not that it's an internal fire that burns inside of us. Instead, it's an understanding. It's motivation built on understanding. Therefore, it is something that, even if you are unable to do something at this moment, it's not a fire that burns inside. Instead, it's just an understanding. Therefore, you realize, if I haven't done it this moment, then I can do it next. So if a child has the motivation to eat chocolate or has a desire to eat chocolate, and you try to stop all paths, and if you try to put all blockages, right, and say, you're not gonna go outside, you're not gonna ask dad to buy chocolate, and none of this, the greater the potential energy, the greater the motivation, can the child stop him or herself from finding a way to get chocolate? It could be simply as, phoning a friend to throw the chocolate inside the window. Who knows? The greater the potential energy, or the greater the potential, the greater the greater the motivation, the more likely it's going to get done. That's why, if you have such a strong motivation for Nibbana, you don't need these. These will happen. These will happen. You don't need it. But because we still, we need someone or something to keep prodding us and going like, okay, are you there yet? Come on, do a bit more. Try a bit harder. Because we don't have such a strong motivation. That's why we have to implement these sort of things. So this is why we have to continuously try to put ourselves in that situation where we have to increase our motivation. Understand why. Why do I need to do this? Understanding it means that these will get done. That's why if you have motivation, you are driven, you're driving a self-driven car. Because the mind will continuously try to fill this potential gap. It will try to fill it, taking any path it can take. Now we've talked about how necessity is the mother of invention. The last couple of weeks we've been talking about this. Well, if you have a necessity, what will happen? Necessity is what? The potential. Meaning what? The mind will take its path to get to the result it wants. So this is something that we have to continuously do. So if you don't spend 5-10 minutes thinking about the end goal, do this. Right? Have that written down in one of these boxes. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Just think. What is unconditional happiness, and why do I want this? Simply, why do I want to get rid of anger? Why do I want to get rid of greed? Why do I want to get rid of ego? Because once you realize once you realize, that greed, aversion, delusion, ego, pride, and all of this is giving you immense amount of suffering, immense amount of mental pressure. Now what does the mind want to do? Wants to get rid of it. Now you show it, to get rid of it, there's a path. There's a way to become unconditionally happy. So what does the mind next do? Tries to get to that path. So this is something that our monks in the monastery do. Every year we do the same thing. Right? Not only that, we go to our teachers with this as well, right? Because we are incredibly lucky to have a teacher, right? To be able to go to our teacher and show them these goals, and our teacher will not only just look over it. No, they will be the motivation as well. So every week they'll ask, did you study the Dhammapada stanzas? Did you go to the Valley Malua and meditate? So this is what we do. Now you can do this. Well, if you want, you got this, right? You can do it. Because in this journey, only you can help yourself. And I think that is something that is, something that we all wish wasn't there, but the truth is, right? The hard truth is, only you can help yourself. No matter how much, no matter how much your teachers or, other people are around there, trying to get you here, right? Trying to get you to Nibbana, only you can help yourself. And so, it's as much as you can only do as much as you do. As much as you can do. As much as you're willing to do. You can't do any more. If you think about it, it should make us feel really, 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 everyone is together. However, we are all alone. You'll be surrounded, especially in the monastery, by amazing people. But at the end of the day, we are by ourselves. We have only ourselves to help ourselves. Because the only thing other people can do is give you what? Views. And we can say, try this, do that. But at the end of the day, it's you who's doing it. This is why. All I can do is give you views. Right? Here, this is what we do. Now you decide. Now, this is not me. This is not trying to make it feel like, oh, you must do this. No. This is not. Trust me. If you don't want to do this, don't do this. Right? It's not a must. This is, we do this. Every year we do this. You should do the same. You should try to do the same. Because these are the benefits. If you want these benefits, then what should you do? You should do these. I think that's one thing that I really enjoy is we are always taught, right? Always taught, okay, this is something that you can do. These are the benefits. These are the drawbacks. You can decide. For example, the Buddha, has never come and said, you know what? Never, we have these 5 precepts. Don't break these 5 precepts. Right? There is no hard and fast rule. What he does is, okay, these are some things. If you do these, this is the consequence. You decide. It's up to you. For lay people, for the lay community, that's all that is. These are some rules. If you break these rules, these are not even rules. These are just things that you shouldn't do. If you do these are the consequences. If you want to follow these, you follow these. If you don't want to follow these, you don't need to. That's why, you have the 5 precepts. Again, same thing. So the same thing here. This is a way. These are the benefits. If you want to do it, you do. If you don't want to do it, you don't need to do it. But this is something that we have to do. If we want to attain Nibbana. If we want to take that next step or the next leap forward. Because we are coming to the end of this year. I don't know about you, but this year has gone by very quickly for me. And I think I say this every year. You'll hear me say this every year because that's exactly how it feels. Like, that's not saying that I remember being born yesterday. No. But what I'm trying to say is that it feels as though every year is going faster and faster. Literally, it was just last year that I remember December. But that's the one thing that we don't have a lot of. And that's time. We don't have a lot of it. Unfortunately, it's not something that you can buy. If you can buy time, we have some sort of excuse. But can we buy time? No, time isn't something that you can change. Every moment is going. And unfortunately, we're going to come to an inevitable end. When that will be, we have no idea. Whether it's today, tomorrow, next year, in a decade, in a century, who knows? But 2024 went by in a flash. Right? And we're approaching a completely new year. They say, new year, new me. Yeah. But every year, it feels as though nothing's happened. This is why, sometimes, we have to think, am I doing enough here? Am I doing enough? Can I do something extra? For most of our entire life, we've been doing things and having no results. Right. Like, I think we talked about how much chocolate we've eaten in a lifetime. Yes. I mean, We've eaten chocolate, we've listened to songs, we've watched movies in order to be happy. None of those worked. All those were just temporary releases, getting us absolutely nowhere. It's like, snakes and ladders. It's almost as though every dice you roll goes back to square one. Right? You roll a 6, square one. You roll a 7. Oh, you don't roll 7s. You roll a 5, square one. 4, 3, 2, 1. No matter what you roll, you go back to what? Square one. No matter what you do, you end up where you started, with sometimes even worse than you started, with more vexation, more pressure than you started off with. Until you find the dice, which is what? The Dhamma. But the thing is, with the dice of Dhamma, it's not always with you. You have the dice in your hand, but you decide to roll it sometimes. Every Saturday I'm going to roll this dice. Or, every time I listen to a sermon, I'm going to roll this dice. And once you roll that dice, yes, you go steps ahead. But once you start rolling the other dice, you're going backwards. See, I would even say, we've spent so many years rolling the dice of life. I would even say, you know what? Why not spend the next 4 or 5 years just rolling the dice of Dhamma? You know how we used to sacrifice our lives for something. For something, someone. We sacrifice our lives. Why not just sacrifice just 2-3 years? Just to roll the dice of Dhamma. Just 2-3 years. So we actually get somewhere. So we can actually go, we can go ahead. So we can reduce the amount of mental suffering we have. Just 2-3 years. And then you can go back 100%. You can go back and live, your normal life. If you can live a normal life after that. That's beside the point. But just sacrifice 2-3 years. I mean, you've already spent who knows how much of your life. Because remember, 2024 is all gone. Right? We only have, today's 28th. Yeah, we only have 3 days left. And, time will always tick. No matter where you go. No matter how fast you go. Time will always tick. And day by day, week by week, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, we're coming to the inevitable end. And something that I really want you to think about is, when that end comes, are you ready for it? So last time, I think a couple weeks back, we talked about, are you ready to lose your sight? Because that's something that's going to happen. Either gradually or at once. What do you mean at once? How do you lose your eyesight at once? Well, when you pass away, will you be able to see? So I want you to ask yourself, are you ready for that moment? Will you be able to, say goodbye to the world with a smile on your face? That I've done what I have to have done. I've done all that I can done. Can you come and say, Kina Jati? That I've done all that needs to be done. Grim Reaper, take me away. If not, get ready. sacrifice just 2-3 years, 4-5 years to getting ready for death. You know how we used to get ready for exams? Yeah. Exams, we had to get ready for those, those revision and the endless sleepless nights of revision. Yeah, we're willing to sacrifice all that for one exam. You do the exam. Like, if I asked you how much of your degree do you still use today, questionable, isn't it? But you still studied nights, right? With coffee, endless nights with coffee, and trying to keep yourself awake for an exam that you don't use. But why not get ready for the final exam? Why not get ready for that final exam? Because that exam everyone has to do. But are we really preparing ourselves for it? Are we ready for it? If we are, great. If not, well, we have to do our revision. We have to study. Because again, 2024 is almost over. 2025 is just beginning. You know what I'm saying? What's going in my mind is 2024 is almost over. Yes. No. Is it? Is it not? Because, right now we're talking about the world in a very mundane way. But this is something that we need. This is what we need to get the motivation to go forward. But there's also another aspect, which I will definitely talk about. And that is the 31st of December or the 1st of January the start of the new year? See, we've changed the topic like this. It's like pulling out a Uno reverse here, right? Is the 1st of January the start of New Year? I remember, when I used to grow up. I used to grow up in the UK, and I had cousins in Sri Lanka. I had friends in other countries, and especially on New Year's Day, right? Like we'll be watching the television, like at the fireworks around Big Ben and London Eye and whatnot. And I remember, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. And then you phone people, and they're like, "Oh, we had it a couple hours ago." And you're like, "Okay, Happy New Year's to you." Oh, there'll be other people saying, "Oh, we have it in a couple hours. Don't ruin it," right? Because these are just constructs. These are just constructs, what people have made. What is the difference between the 31st of December and the 1st of January? Does the sun rise differently? Like the sun rises east to west. Does on the 1st of January, does it rise west to east? Does it? I don't know. What changes from December 31st to the 1st of January? What's the difference? We enter a new year. What's the difference? You feel it to be different. Why? Because that's what your environment has done. We think that it's such a special occasion. The 1st of January is such a special occasion. We enter 2025, new year, new me. I'm gonna do something different this year. Gonna change this year. We make these resolutions because of what? Because we want to change the next year. We want to be different the next year. But the next year is just what? Just a feeling. Imagine, Imagine you were in a coma, right? From December to January. You wake up on January the 15th, right? Would you feel it to be a new year? You wake up and you think, oh, it's still December, right? Because for you perceive what? it's still December. I lost conscious on December 15th. Then it should be December 16th. It should be December 16th. And so it's now December 16th. It's unless you see a calendar or someone's told you, you realize, it's now January the 29th. I remember once back in my lay life, for some reason I had to stay up many hours, right? And after that I went to sleep. I went to sleep for more than 6 hours, like probably like 12, 13, 14 hours. And I wake up and I think, what time is it? I look outside and it's semi-dark. I've woken up too early in the morning, right? You look at the time, it's 7. And you're like, 7 what day? 7 o'clock what day? Because you wake up and you don't actually know what day it is. Because why? Days are also what? Days are also what? I've always asked, right? My sister was born in February, right? A day before, she was born a leap year, but she was born a day before the 29th. Which I really wish she was born on the 29th, so we can give her a present once every 4 years. But but I remember continuously asking everyone the question, like, why does every other month has 30 or 31 days? Why on earth does February have just 28 or 29 days? Like, why is February so special? And every person I've asked just answers, that's how it is. February is just like that. That's how it is, February is just a month that just has 28 days. Then you come to realize that February itself is just what? A concept. February is just what? A concept. Now, we are entering a new year. That's just what? It's just a concept that we feel. But we give January the 1st great value. It's such an amazing day, right? We give it a countdown as well, right? We're counting down for January the 1st, waiting for this amazing day to arise. But this is just a mental construct that we just feel. Can't we convince you that today is 31st of December? Can we not? Very simple. All you have to do is change the date of your phone and have everyone tell you the same thing. Everyone comes and say, oh my God, are you going to watch the fireworks tonight? And you'll be like, fireworks tonight? Today's 28th. No, it's the 31st. At first, you'll be unsure. You check the phone and you'll be like, oh, 31st, but that can't be. You go around asking, like, what's the date today? If everyone says 31st of December, what day is today? So is it actually 31st December? So is today is today the 28th of December? Is tomorrow the 29th of December? Was yesterday the 27th? But yet you feel these days to be so special. Now everyone has a very special day. What day is that? Our birthday. It comes once every year, right? And once every 365 days. Right? And it's a day that we celebrate it with big parties and people come together. How do you know it's your birthday? Like, really, were you born on that day? Were you really born on whatever day? So, for example, if you're born on the 1st of January, were you really born on the 1st of January? Or was it just a concept that, your parents in place and said, okay, you were born on the 1st of January. So every 1st of January, we're going to remind you that you were born that day. Yay, you're 2 years old today. You were born 2 years before. In the future, maybe in the future, who knows? But, we all one day live, I think society is planning to live on Mars one day. When we live on Mars, how often do we have birthdays? Do we follow the cycle of Earth or cycle of Mars? It'd be really weird, wouldn't it? Like, you go ask someone who's been living on Mars their entire life, like, how old are you? Oh, I'm just 15 years old. And you look at them like they're like 40 something years old. You're not 15. Like, yeah, I'm 15. We've only been 15 years. And they'll look at like a person on Earth and like, how old are you? I'm 80 years old. No, you're just 30. Because see, we fall into the trap of, societal conventions, and we think these to be true, absolute. These are the reality. This is what day it is today. And we give these days such great meanings. So who decided, because if I say who decided a year to be 365 days, there was no person. We just took the circle, the orbit of the Earth, and we said, okay, that took 365 days. So we're going to take this a year. But this orbit isn't stable. This orbit changes every now and then. That's why it's not 365 days. We have 365.25 days. That's why every 4 years you get an extra day. And also, when it comes to, this convention, in Sri Lanka, we don't have this, but in other countries like Australia, UK, America, we've got daylight saving. Oh, how I used to despise daylight saving. Once a year. Why? 1 year, one day in a year, right? So daylight saving is what these countries do to save daylight, basically. So they'll put their clocks either 1 hour forward or 1 hour back. So there are days. There's I can't remember the exact date, but I think it changes every year, right? I think. Does it? It changes? Okay. It changes every year, so you have to be aware when daylight saving happens. But there'll be a year where time will move backwards an hour. So does time really move back an hour? Like, does everyone feel like an hour younger than they used to be? Do you start feeling, I was, X amount of years, Y amount of days, and 3 hours. Daylight saving happens, and now I feel 2 hours. Do you? No, but we really feel that, once we turn the clock back an hour, we just gained an extra hour in the day. Right? That day has 25 hours. That day is okay because you get an extra hour of sleep. How the other time? The other time, how many hours does that day have? 23 hours. You lose an hour of sleep. Right? You have to sleep early that day. So do you feel 1 hour older than you were before you changed the clock? I think nowadays, the phones, they change automatically, but clocks don't. Right? So you have to go around the house like changing the clocks, right? And whatever dials or whatever you have. But do you feel a difference in that time? But yet you feel that right now it's this time, and another hour it's now this time, and at 12 o'clock there's 12 midnight and all this. These are things that you feel, but you feel them to be really, really, really like These are the absolute truths, you almost feel. So, but if I asked you, is there a difference between 31st and the 1st of January? You can't say that. You say, yes, it's the new year, but when you really think about it, it's no different. So why do we give the 1st of January such great feeling? Then you can ask, well, but in the monastery, don't you do this? Don't you make these? I go, in the monastery, don't we have a very meritorious event on the 31st? Why did you put it on the 31st? Why not put it on some other day? What we have to realize is, yes, the 31st is just another day. The 1st of January is just another day. However, it is a time where we can place a dot. So we can place a dot and almost come to the understanding or come to a point where we just reflect. We reflect that, okay, what can I do now to improve myself, to go further on my path? What can I do now? That dot is important. I think, really, I don't know about all of you, but for me, my weeks are measured by the way I know how. The way I measure a week is by this sermon and by the sermon that Guru Hamdul and our teachers do for us. These are the 2 points that remind me that this is the day. So I wake up on Saturdays and I go, oh, today's Saturday. Why? Because I do the sermon. And on Thursdays, we have a sermon with our teacher. And that's when I remember, okay, today is Thursday. These are 2 points that remind me. If those 2 points weren't there, like, for example, our monks, we don't carry phones and have like calendars filled with, okay, these are the things I have to do and whatnot. Like, we do have calendars and we have devices and whatnot. However, they think, we because we have so much, because we are contemplating and doing so much, time goes and you don't really realize it. So it's always best to have a pointer, almost a marker, to remind yourselves, okay, a week has gone. How far have you come? A month has gone. How far have you gone? That's why, every month, we've talked about this, we have a Poya day, a full moon day. On the full moon day in Sri Lanka, it's like a bank holiday, which means Sri Lanka has 12 bank holidays a year, right? With extra holidays as well. But it's a good time to think about, okay, a month has gone by. How close am I to getting to my goal? A year has gone by. How close am I to getting how close am I to getting to my goal? Now, the 31st of December is one way or one day that we can measure that. But for other countries, is it also the 1st of January that's the start of a new year? No. Other countries have different things. For example, in Sri Lanka, we have our New Year's is when? In April. And then you got the Chinese New Year. And then you got the Mayan New Year's, if I remember correctly. And you have different people pointing out different points. Which one is right? Which one is wrong? Which one's right? Which one's wrong? The Chinese New Year has to be wrong. It has to be the 1st of January, right? Or no, it has to be this one. No, the Sri Lankan New Year has to be wrong. Or which one is wrong? Which one's right? No, these are all conventions. We have to understand the reality, but live in convention. We have to come and understand the reality of things. What is really happening? So if you come to feel that the 1st of January is intrinsic, is very valuable, Now what? Whenever value is placed, what happens? Whenever something is given value, now what? Now it's special. Because it's special, now it's something that you have to protect. That's why, if someone was to ruin your 1st of January, what do you say? You've ruined my entire year. So, for example, if your child was to do something, right, and say they dropped your favorite vase, right? Now, what do you say? You've ruined my entire year. When only a day has gone by. Or maybe not even a day, just a couple hours have gone by. You say your entire year has gone, because why? That day is so special to you. You've given it value. By giving it value, what does that mean? You have to protect it. Now, how do you protect a day? It's not about a day we're talking about here. We're talking about this feeling you have. This is why, we like surprise birthday parties. Some of us, at least. Why? Because everyone pretends to forget that, your special day is special. Right? And what does that make you feel? My birthday, people have forgotten my birthday. How could they? It's such a special day. And now you're upset. And then when they all come in the end and like, oh, happy birthday, surprise. Now you feel what? They've given this day so much value. I love my friends and family. Because why? This day has to be given more value. But this day is just another day. See, we fall into this trap thinking that that convention is what is real. What we have to do is we have to understand that convention is just convention, that we only have this mind. When a mind arises, does it know the time? Now, let's just take this example. Right? So we know for a mind to arise, we need what? We need something to stimulate it, right? Some sort of stimulus. So, I don't know, what do you want to take as a stimulus? Don't take a flower. Oh, we got flowers. Here we go. Decoration team, sorry. We have flowers, right? So if we looked at the process of how a mind is formed, very simply. Now, my drawings, right? I apologize in advance. My drawings are elite. They're the most amazing drawings. If you don't know what it is, right, I'll label it so you understand, right? But my flowers are amazing. This is the flower that's here. Just because there's a flower, is there a mind? Just because there's a flower, is there a mind? No. Because okay, here's a good question. Without the mind, is there a flower? See, now here's when you have to really think about this. Now, it's like saying, if you don't perceive a flower, is there a flower? Not in your world. Not in your world. Now, the next question is, in the real world, is there a flower? I don't know. You tell me. In the real world, is there a flower? I don't know. Because I can only talk about what? My world. So just because it's a flower, Is there a mind? What else needs to be there? Again, my drawings are amazing. That's an eye. Okay, do I have to label this? No, right? It's an eye, right? Yeah, there you go. That's an eye. Just because there is a flower, okay. Actually, we won't call this a flower because without a mind you don't know what this is. So for now, we're just gonna call this. For now, just for now, we'll call this light. Right, light. Light eyes. Does that mean a mind is formed? If it was the case, it would be very scary. Why? You go to a dead body and you show them a flower and a mind is formed when they come out from the dead. That would be very scary, right? So unfortunately, just having an eye and a flower does not mean a mind is formed. But if there is a mind, if there is a mind base, now these are the three things. If they come into contact, now what? A mind is formed. Now, a good example is, not all of these will always come into contact. Not all the time. Just because an eye, flower, and the mind base are all there doesn't mean a mind will always form. Example of this would be, right? Before I say this, let's see it. I want you to think about whether you actually perceive this, right? Can you all, before I tell you this, right? Can you feel the chair that you're sat on? Before I told you this? Before, not really, because you're more focused on what I'm saying and what you're seeing. So really, that chair, whether it's there or not, your mind doesn't really see that, or doesn't really perceive it. However, when I say the word chair, now the mind looks and goes, yeah, there's a chair, good. There's a chair underneath me. So just because these three things are there doesn't always mean a mind is formed. But if these three come into contact, so in Pali, chakku pari rupe pari chakku vinyan, right? So if these three things come into contact, now we have a mind. Now, this is really fun, right? What does the mind look like? Does the mind look like this? I think in every sermon that our monks do is that we draw minds like this. The reason why we do that is so we can show that the mind arises and then passes away. But what do minds really look like? So these are just a diagram representation. Real minds, like if real minds look like this, real eyes look like this. Right? See? So we have a mind. Now, when this happened, right? Let's say there's a clock as well in the background, right? And this is 4 o'clock. Does this mind know it's 4 o'clock? When the moment light enters the eye and the mind arises, does the mind know it's 4 o'clock? You tell me, does the mind know it's 4 o'clock? No. Of course not, because it's just seeing what? But if it was to see the clock, now what does it feel? Now it's 4. So before it sees the clock, does the mind know time? Does the mind know time? What time it is? That's why, if you're stuck somewhere that you don't like, for example, a traffic jam. And how long is an hour now? Or how long is 5 minutes in a traffic jam? Half an hour to an hour long. But when you're doing something that you really like, or very simply, imagine you're really sleepy, right? And you snooze the alarm. Normally a snooze time is like 5 minutes. How long is that 5 minutes? It's like you snoozed it and then you snoozed it again. Because you don't feel that. But if time conventionally moves at the same time no matter what. Unless your clock runs out of battery, but we're not talking about clocks here. Right? We're talking about, time. Okay, so today is we'll say, for example, today is the 30th of December. Does this mind know it's the 30th? No, all it knows is what? I perceive. Well, it'll go through a process, but at the end of the process, so it'll say that, a flower has been perceived. However, there's an issue. The issue is that this base isn't as pure as we want it to be. This base has, you can say, more of an issue. That it has an idea, or has an idea. And this idea is, no matter what comes, I want something that is fixed. I want something that is separate, that is, different. Because for the eye, are these different for the eyes? Now, I'm not saying this is a leaf and this is a flower. For the eyes, does the eyes feel different to either one of these? Now, the eye can only perceive color in this and can perceive color in this. Which one's more valuable for the eye? This leaf is an eyesore. This flower is beautiful. Which one's more valuable for the eye? Which one's more precious? What does the eye want to look at? The flowers, it's got pink, white, a bit of orange, green, and a bit of, that's pretty much it. The eye likes seeing all these colors. Does the eyes like seeing color? No, the eyes just perceive, the eye can only see. Oh, actually, if you think about it, the eye can't actually see more that it just takes light and sends it to your brain in the form of electricity. The eyes aren't seeing. As I say, the camera can see. Can cameras see? No, cameras can only take light and put it into electricity and send it to its electrical stuff and store it in a bank. So will a camera ever say, what, I don't like looking at this leaf, like, please change it? How people have time lapses? They take a video of like a city and you have the time lapse. To do that, they have to leave that camera there for several hours, maybe even days. Will you ever hear the camera complain, going like, oh, I've been looking at the same thing for the last, 6 hours. Please change it. Would you ever hear that? No, because what does the camera do? The camera can only what? Not see. The camera can only take in light and put it into electricity, just like the what? Just like the eye. The eye does the same thing. Now, something that's really interesting is, how day by day, people are trying to improve cameras, right, to make them higher quality. But there's always going to be a limit of how much quality they can get a camera to be. Because why? Our eyes have a certain resolution. No matter how amazing you get a picture, your eyes can only perceive a certain resolution. So there's always going to be a limit. That's why, I remember I used to have a friend who was a camera fanatic, right? So he would take photos and be like, oh my God, look at this phone, look at this phone, right? Or this camera, look at the resolution. Can you see the quality? I'll look at these photos and they look exactly the same. And I'll be like, yeah, there's a difference. Yeah. And they're like, look at the edges, it's so crisp. And I look at them and they look exactly the same to me. Because eyes have a certain resolution. Your eyes can't go past that. But so your eyes don't have a need or a want for things. Now here's the question. Does the mind have a need or want for things? The mind's entire purpose is to what? Just to perceive. What have I saw? What was this stimulus? What was that stimulus? What was this and that and this and that? It just wants to receive and recognize. That's all it wants to do. It wants nothing else. Unless it has what? Unless the view is placed. I want something separate. There has to be something separate, something fixed, something different. Now, when you look at both of these, I think the leaf is coming off. No. When you look at both of these, now the mind has a preference. This leaf is okay, but the flowers, oh my God, they're amazing. Now there's this value that's placed. Now that this is more valuable than this. So if we were to have an auction, right? Which one's more valuable? Which one's more valuable? Now, most likely, this people will pay more for this. People will pay more for this and this. However, can't I give this more value? You see this leaf? This leaf is a leaf from one of the rarest species. It's going extinct, right? Not only that, this leaf has the power to turn red, right? Has the power to turn red, right? And it has health benefits as well. X, Y, and Z. You can solve these health benefits. Okay, now let's auction this. Which one's more valuable now? You see, intrinsically, no object has value. Nothing actually has value. Okay, a rock and this, which one's more valuable? In reality, none of them. Both of them are just what? Just simply put, it's just matter come together. What about light? Which one's more valuable, light or this? Without light, we can't see. Yeah. Without light, we can't see. So light has to be valuable. Right? Right? Light is also what? What value do you have? What value does light have? The same value that this has. See, outside our perception, right? Outside outside of all this thing, which one gives it value? See, your own mind, unless the view is in place, your mind sees all of this as what? Okay, I perceive a pen, I perceive some dust. Okay, that's okay. So what? I perceive this pen and I perceive these flowers. Okay. But once the view is in place, now there is something different here. Pen, flower, pen, flower. Now this one is different because there's a view that it wants to see something different. Now, if we went back in time where you weren't given a view about pens or flowers, but if I was to show you both of these, right? So if we were to show a baby a pen and a flower, which one would the baby feel to be more valuable? Actually, it will most likely, not all the time, but most likely find this one more valuable. Why is that? Color. This has separate, different colors. This one, just black and white and some other red and stuff. But this one, more color. This one has more parts. This one has more parts. This one they can fit, or this one they can see to have different textures. So this one they would like to put in their mouth. This one, you know, no, this is not saying, this is not generalizing and saying every child will do that. But this is what most minds like, to see something separate, to see something different. See, what we have to do is now this is why we have special days in the year. We want to have something what? Separate, something different. That's why we feel, every day to be a new day, when every day is just a day. What is different about the 1st of January and 31st of December? Nothing. It's just 2 days. Well, you say you don't go to sleep. 31st December, 1st of January, you don't go to sleep. For you, that's just 1 day. You don't feel them to be 2 days. Unless you know the time, you don't feel them to be 2 days. You feel them to be one exact long day. So this idea of value comes from what? Comes from this mental base. The mental base of wanting something that is different, that has value, that is fixed. You see, when that view is in place, the mind now no longer just wants to perceive this. It wants to perceive something that is different, something that is fixed, something that has value. Now, like I said, the eye doesn't know which one's more valuable. The mind itself, the newborn mind, doesn't know what's more valuable. Because which one is actually, in reality, which pen is more valuable in reality? Neither. So what happens is, the mind goes into, because of this, we call it ignorance, has this idea, because it really wants it, it has this idea that it has to be like this. Now, because the world isn't like that, what happens is, the mind, when children are little, right? Do you remember you used to buy, play phones or play, pretend stuff? Remember? But they used to feel it to be so real, so real, right? Because the mind has the ability to make belief, to imagine. Ah, yes, this is special. This is different. Now, the issue with this is, so coming back to the 1st of January. 1st of January, completely normal day. Until the mind has the view. The mental base has the view. What? Something different. Now what? Something has to be different. The 1st of January is 1st of January. And it creates this feeling that it gives it value. It feeds it value. Now you think, 1st of January is valuable. This flower is very valuable. Wow. These flowers. Oh, I love these flowers. I'm guessing these are roses, aren't they? Yeah. I have no idea what this flower is, but these flowers are amazing. Now you give it value. Now the thing is with minds is, once a mind arises, what is the next thing that has to happen? What goes up must come down. The mind will after it makes its perception, will now pass away. So it's as though they want this flower, they love the flower, but the mind is now passing away. Without your mind, can you see this flower? But if your mind wants to see a flower, and now the mind is passing away, what happens? What is the mind now feeling? It feels as though the entire world is being ripped away from it. It feels as though this flower that, it really likes will now be gone. Because the mind now what? Passes away. Next moment, again, the mind arises and sees the flower. And then it thinks, wow, I see a flower again. Wow, it's amazing. The next moment, it now passes away. The mind is screaming. The mind is now screaming. This is why, if you really like, it's like this. If you really like something, and let's say you really like this flower, and I destroy it. I break it and I destroy it. You are unhappy not because I destroyed the flower. You are unhappy because of what? You will never be able to perceive this flower again. You don't care. If I was to tear this flower piece by piece, but in the end show you the flower, right? Show you the flower in good condition, would you care? Would you care what I did to the flower? No, because why? You just want to perceive. The mind just wants to perceive what it is. You like flower? The flower is there. Good. Now, if you like the 31st of December, I hope I'm not destroying anyone's New Year. Everyone, enjoy your New Year's, right? 31st December, amazing day. 1st of January, even better, right? I hope I'm not destroying anyone's New Year. No, but these are things that, I want to show you reality. I want to open your eyes to reality, because if you don't see reality, you're in a fallacy. You're living in a dream world. Now, in a dream world, anything can happen. That's why people can destroy things. How can I destroy a flower? Can I destroy a flower? Can I destroy your perception of a flower? I can't destroy flowers. I can destroy your perception of a flower. Why can't I destroy a flower? Because that means there has to be a flower there in the first place for me to destroy a flower. But for as long as you perceive there's a flower, you'll think, oh, that's okay. I'm okay. That's all well and good. Perfect. You see, we have to come out of our fallacy. Coming out of this fallacy is very simple, but yet very difficult. Right? I think the best example, the best metaphor to give this way of understanding is like threading a needle. The objective is very easy. What is it? Take thread, put it through the hole, and that's it. Put it through the eye of the needle, and that's it. But is it as easy said as done? No, you go and you put it in, you miss, you put it in, you miss, you cut, you lick, you put it in, you miss, right? You open both sides, you close one eye, you close the other eye, and you try to thread the needle. The task is very simple. However what? It's very difficult. Because what we're trying to do is we're going against what we feel. Because no matter how often how many times I say, 31st December is just a concept. On the 31st of December, you'll feel special. On the 1st of January, you'll feel that you've entered a new year. No matter how much we talk about this, because the moment we stop talking about what is. The moment we take a step out of reality, what happens is we come back to convention. We come back to our ignorance. We come back into this fallacy. We come back to this understanding that, is it the 1st of January, New Year, great, yay. Because why? Because this is how we've been thinking our entire life. But when the moment someone says, oh no, wait, is the 1st of January special? For as long as you are, this is why, for as long as you're in the environment, mind will arise differently. Because we're in this environment, our mind is arising in such a way. We remove ourselves from this environment. You go to the London Eye, right, on the 31st. Will you ever think, wow, 31st of December is just a concept? No, you'll think, okay, 5, 4, 3. Because environment gives rise to what? The mind. This is why environment is key. If anyone asks me, like, what is the way to attain Nibbana? What is the way to be unconditionally happy? And I'll say, forever and ever, I'll continue to say it's the environment. Now, again, I'm not talking about physical environment. However, physical environment does make a difference. It makes a massive difference. Physical environment makes a massive difference. But in reality, we're just talking about mental environment. You see this line? What we have to do is get rid of this view. Now, to get rid of the view, remember, we have two dices. We've got the dice of life and the dice of the Dhamma. The more we use the dice of life, the thicker and thicker that line will become. The more we use the dice of the Dhamma, dice of reality, the thinner and thinner that line becomes. I think one of the greatest examples that the Buddha himself gives is like washing a white cloth in dirty water. Can you wash, or like say with muddy water? Can you wash a white cloth in muddy water? Like this, you take the cloth, right? And it's dirty, so you take the soap and you apply the soap and you rub, and then you put it back into the dirt. It comes out what? Clean? It comes out muddier than it was before. So what do? You put the soap again and you rub again. Now I have to rub harder. Why? Because now the stains are like going inside and the dye, it's now staining the cloth itself. So you have to put more soap, put bleach and whatnot. You put it back into the water, take it back out, and what? This is why we have to make this determination. We have to have a strong motivation. Because you have to remember that it's almost as though the world is against you. How can the world be against you? That's not possible, right? When you see this, do you see this to be cause and effect, or do you see this to be one fixed pen? I don't know. Whenever you see a pen, do you see it and think, oh, all of these are just separate parts? Or do you confirm this view saying that, oh, it's just one fixed pen that I can use to write with? Well, you see this and you say, well, this is one pen. You see one pen, which means you are further strengthening this view. That's why the Buddha says, everything around you. But you can say, well, I can see one pen because all these pieces are together. It's pieces coming together. That's why I see one pen. But don't you, the great example that you can give is that, if I took these two pens and if I switch these lids around, why do we feel this to be off? Especially because, this pen lid is wobbly. And this one is also like, why do we feel this to be off? Because we really do think, we don't think that, this is right, that this has to be right, that this lid belongs to this lid belongs to this. Does the pen know this? Does the pen... I remember I used to have this teacher who, whenever we used whiteboard markers, she would scream at us if we leave the lid off the pen. Right? Literally, it would just be a never-ending, why are you leaving the pen like this? You shouldn't be leaving the lid belongs on the tip. Right? Does the pen care? Okay. We give the pen the ability to talk. Pen, do you want the lid on your head or on the back? What would the pen say? Your choice. You choose. No, it doesn't care. Because why? It doesn't have this idea that what? This is how it's supposed to be. However, we give this pen ignorance. And so it feels that I am special. I am different. I have to not be a pen, but I have to be, I have to be different. Now you ask it, pen, where should the lid be? Why is the lid not on my head? It should be on my head. It belongs on my head. It should be like, so I can live a longer life. I can live a long life because it will believe that writing is its life. But does the pen know it has to write? Does this pen know it has to write? The pen has no idea. But yet inside here, because of ignorance, we think that no, this is a pen and it has to write. That's why when you pick up a pen and you start writing and it stops working, why are we frustrated? Because you don't think you don't see it to be what? Causes coming together to give rise to a pen, right? Right, to give the causes so writing can happen. No, you see it to be, this is a pen and it should write. It's hilarious when you see children when they try to write and the pen runs out. The amount of things they do to the pen, right? They start tapping the pen, they start flicking the pen. I've had a friend who, whenever the pen stops working, will literally fling it across the room, right? And then pick it up and then try again, seeing if it works. Why? Because they feel what? This is a pen, it should write. Not that causes have to come together for writing to happen, because of this idea that this is separate, that this is a fixed item, fixed pen. So I have to go back. But come back. Think about this. Why do I feel this? Why am I feeling that this is a fixed pen? Is this a fixed pen? Or is this pen a feeling, a perception? Now that doesn't mean like in the future, once you understand this, you don't see this as a pen. No, you will always perceive this to be a pen, but you will not perceive it to be what? A fixed pen. Therefore, if this pen, I don't know, someone was able to turn this pen into a snake, you won't be surprised, because why? Causes come together to give rise to a result. How did that happen? Causes came together. Okay. If the pen starts to write, so it's a black pen, you start writing and it turns red. So this is something that I've seen children do, is that, especially with whiteboard markers, there are refillable ones. So they fill it, so they take a half-used pen and they fill the end with another color. So as the teacher's writing, it starts with blue, and then as she's writing, it turns to red. Right? And she's very surprised, like, oh my God, what did you guys do to the pen? You've ruined the pen and whatnot. But if you understand that writing itself is what? Causes come together to give rise to a manifestation. Now you think, okay, that's fine. That's how it is. Okay. You see, it's because of the mental base with ignorance. That's what causes all this suffering. Get rid of ignorance. Now what you're doing is you perceive flower. This mind will perceive a flower. So what? Alright, it perceives a flower. The next mind, it perceives a broken flower. What would that mind, a mind without ignorance, what would it perceive? A broken flower. Okay. A goat comes and eats the flower. Now what will the mind perceive? No flower. A mind without ignorance? Okay. But once the mind has ignorance, that flower, it was broken, and then a goat ate that flower. How can that be? That's not how it has to happen. The flower. That's why we don't like seeing flowers droop. We don't like seeing that. We know, we understand that this is the natural lifestyle of a flower. The flower will bloom, the flower will droop, the flower will decay and die. But we don't like seeing it, because why? We have this idea that flowers should always be like this. That's why we like fake flowers. Because they don't die. They become dusty, but they don't die. But yeah, see, even with fake flowers, I take a fake flower and a real flower. Oh, better one. You see this leaf? And you see this leaf? You still feel these to be two different leaves. I mean, two different, meaning that, this one is better because why? This is real. This one is fake. That's why people don't like fake flowers, because why? It's fake. But truly, it's just a perception. So what is a fake flower? So what's a real? It's a real flower. It is just a perception. Someone gives you real flowers. Wow, they gave me flowers. They gave you fake flowers. Oh, they gave me fake flowers. They don't like me. Like, who knows? They may think about you more than you think about yourself, because you have flowers. The flower's going to die. You're going to be sad. So they give you fake flowers. So it's not going to die. You're not going to be sad. Again, why is this? But our mental perception thinks differently. See, this is why we have to continuously start thinking, right? We have to attack this mental base, right? I'm giving you almost tools here. I'm giving you weapons here. Remember, we started off by saying, you are your only savior. Because all everyone can do is just give you tools. Only you can wield it. I can teach you, look, here's a sword, right? It's a balanced sword. You hold it like this, 2 hands on the hilt, right? It's in you use it like this, but I can only teach you. What do you have to do? You have to hold it and you have to use it. This is why, like in this environment, what you're doing is you're picking up the sword and you're training. This is why whenever you listen to any sort of talk, right, like a sermon or whatnot, what you should be doing is you should be taking whatever weapon is given and use it on your own experiences. So I'm giving examples of flowers and chocolate and whatnot, but you should be doing what? Using it with your own examples. So what you're doing is you're taking it to a practice ground, using your sword. You've taken it and you're using it. So when the opposition does arise, when this line is there, you can fight it non-stop. You can fight it without a doubt. You know exactly what you have to do. You see, this is why we have to continuously start thinking. It is absolutely essential. Environment is essential. If you can do it, what we have to do is we have to practice. Take the sword and wield it and practice. Practice and practice and practice, and then use it. Because every week we can all come here together and all have, and I can always talk about these sort of things, and you can always listen, and we can learn so much. But knowledge is not power. Knowledge put into use is power. Use what you know. Attack your defilements. That's why you shouldn't be satisfied. Okay, I got, you should, if you have the motivation to attain, to become unconditionally happy, you should always be happy with your achievement, but always think, what can I do next? Yes, okay. Yesterday, this person came to me and told me something. I would have got angry, but I thought about it and I'm not angry. Okay, what can I do next? See, the motivation, the potential. Have a strong potential. So I'd like to conclude saying, well, Happy New Year's, right? Enjoy your 1st of January and 31st of December, right? And make a firm determination. Make a firm resolve that I will try my very best to become unconditionally happy. Take just 5 minutes just before you fall asleep. I mean, if you slept, if you normally sleep 6 hours and you only have 6 hours sleep, 6 hours and 5 hours and 55 minutes, is that a big difference? But no, you have time. Just take 5 minutes. 5 minutes to think about the end goal. Think about what you did in the day, how much you have done to get there, and you think about the end goal. Why do I want this? Because once you make the potential, the pen will always drop. Right? So I think we have on the 31st of December, we have an event called Myth Shanti Karma, where we will be chanting karma sthanas throughout the entire night till the next morning, right? Spreading blessings throughout the world, basically. And if you are able to join, you don't have any choice, right? You anyway will be there. But those of you online, and on all of you, please do come. I think it'll be a very good opportunity to not only take another step forward, but to accumulate lots of merits. Because one thing you'll realize is without merits, none of this will be possible. Merits is the battery, or it's the battery that runs. Like, you can have something that does whatever it does, but you need the battery to keep it going. Right? So merits is the battery. You need the battery there. So to accumulate lots of merits, but also to take another step forward, because it is what we do every year as part of the family, right? A part of one big family. All our devotees and listeners all come together. It'll be streamed on our YouTube channels, our English and Sinhalese YouTube channels both. So if you can't join us in person, please try to join us online. Because again, it is a great opportunity. I would like to say once in a lifetime, but it happens once every year. So a yearly opportunity that you can take. But it's something that I would highly recommend, definitely. Okay. So let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude today's session. Let's take a few moments to transfer all the merits required by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirit, listen Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings, and with immense gratitude, let's transfer the message of Bhikshu Bhikshunis, Upasakas, who since time immemorial protect and preserve the sublime teaching of the Buddha, and pass it down through the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dhamma. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all chief political chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget, among them will be the monks and nuns resident in local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side, to thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to Guru San Nanse, as well as the other monks resident in the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas and Nagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who made great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be thereby transliterating some and share them among others, inviting others to join them. May the power of merits, if any of them have been born in the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and born in the blissed plane. May by the power of merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to the friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha with shelter, arms, robes, medicines, as well as passing their know-how, extend their well wishes. May through the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, friends and acquaintances, employees, to all that has been friends and family to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our teachers. And may by the power of the merits, may they be healed of any physical mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, primates, Sakadeva, as well as the numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill this humble sasana. Let's not forget, among them will be our garden deities, who keep a watchful eye of us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power of the merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors, who have predeceased us, to all that has been friends and family to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the armed forces, there was the police force, who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of this nation. Let's take a moment to transfer these merits to them. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. May the power of merits, if any of them have been born in the wealth plains, may they redeem themselves and be born in bliss of blame. May by the power of merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, let's all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits required for the day, we be able to witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of Arhat nuances, Arhat Mahin nuances in this blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits required for the day, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become a Arhat Nuanse or Arhat Mahin Nuanse in its very life in era of the Gautama, Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. රාගගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා ද්වේෂගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා මෝහගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා රාගගිනි නිවේවා ද්වේෂගිනි නිවේවා මෝහගිනි නිවේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා තුන්රංගේ සුවසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ වලින් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු